Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to my channel. My name is Paul, the Canadian Snowman, here with a brand new series. We got Wars of the Roses, not War of the Roses, Wars of the Roses. So apparently, I got the title here, War of the Roses, wrong. It's Wars of the Roses. Oh, never mind. It's pretty right? War of the Roses. This is one war, and right, and then this is a series, so there's a whole bunch of War of the Roses. Okay, all right, I'm into it now. I'm sorry, guys, I'm a little slow. Uh, yes, I believe this is obviously around England because I seen a couple of England flags when I was picking out a picture for over here. And so, other than that, I've heard the name of this before, War of the Roses. I don't know where I've heard it from, but I've definitely, it's not brand new to me, but I don't know anything about War of the Roses. Only thing I know is the name, and apparently England is involved. So, where the roses part comes into play, I don't know. We're gonna find out. I'm sure you guys probably know everything about this war if you're watching me do this. So you guys are already way ahead of me. But anyways, guys, we're gonna jump into this. Please hit that like and subscribe button below. Really appreciate that. Please and thank you. And yeah, hope you guys enjoy this journey with me. I hope I enjoy it. Battle of Towton, 1461. All right. Let's see what's going on in this time period. 3, 2, 1, bam.
This video was suggested and sponsored by our patron Jetson. You can join the ever-growing army of kings and generals via patrons of that conflict culminated in the bloodiest battle fought on English shores, but each new or YouTube membership.
Alright, I was trying to skip ahead.
Wars often happen because different sides have intractable contradictions, but each new war often creates the causes for the next one. The 100 Years' War between England and France was no different, causing many conflicts in Europe. In England, the Wars of the Roses stemmed from the 100 Years' War. The first phase of that.
You know, I almost did the 100 Years' War before this, and now I'm kind of wishing I did. But anyways, yeah, I'm definitely going to end up getting the 100 Years' War of it sometime, but I'm already started this one. We're diving in deep. This is taking place after the 100 Years' War, and I have no idea what the 100 Years' War was, but you know, I've been kind of filling in the gaps as I go along on this channel. I bounce around everywhere, and eventually all my gaps will be filled, I'm sure, and then I'll have to fill up different gaps in different parts of the world, I'm sure. But anyways, here we are, War of the Roses. Still don't know what it means, but I'm going to find out.
Wars of the Roses stemmed from the 100 Years' War. The first phase of that conflict culminated in the bloodiest battle fought on English soil, the Battle of Towton.
Oh, Towton.
The King of England, Edward III, had 5 sons who survived into adulthood. For the first time in English history, he created duchies for them, making his sons the biggest landowners in the country. On the one hand, this strengthened the crown, but at the same time it formed a new class of nobility which had claims to the throne and enough power to vie for it. Edward's son and heir, the famous 100 Years' War commander Edward the Black Prince, passed away in 1376, followed by the king himself a year later.
Wow.
The Black Prince's son was crowned as Richard II. The reign of this monarch was tumultuous. The Peasants' Revolt of 1381 was followed by the parliamentary crisis of 1386 to 1388. Richard's attempts to reach peace with France, his marriage to the young Valois princess, the lack of an heir, and the constant strife with the nobility made him deeply unpopular. Richard's cousin and one of the most powerful lords, the Duke of Lancaster Henry Bolingbroke, was exiled to France in 1398. In May of 1399, Richard embarked on a campaign in Ireland, and Henry used the opportunity to return to England. He immediately garnered enough support to dethrone Richard and assumed the throne as Henry IV, the first Lancastrian king.
Henry IV, I think I've said this before in previous videos. Is that the guy from, is that the dude from the Tudors? I don't know. I know a past video there was a Henry. This might be a totally different Henry because obviously there's at least four of them. But anyways, Henry's sneaking in here, and obviously I've heard the name Richard before. I guess Richard the Second. I mean, I guess you know royalty kept like reusing the same names over and over, right? So I probably wouldn't know which was which because there's a lot of the same names. Anyways, let's see what Richard does, man. Henry trying to take over.
Richard was arrested and died in 1400, while his heir presumptive, another grandson of Edward III, Edmund Mortimer, was bypassed. That created legitimacy problems for the king, and he faced at least 6 significant rebellions.
Wow.
In 1413, Henry IV succumbed to chronic disease and was succeeded by his son Henry V. The new king was one of the most talented monarchs of England during this era. In 1415, he renewed hostilities with France and won an impressive victory at Agincourt. In less than a decade, he conquered more French land than any English king before him.
Wow.
The Treaty of Troyes was signed with France in 1420, according to which Henry married French Princess Catherine. Their descendants.
Hold on, is this is going to be the Henry from the Tudors, right? Because I know from the Tudors that he did conquer some of France, but I don't think the king was Charles. I don't know. I need to stop thinking about that show and go with the facts on here because I know shows are they don't really follow whatever the truth, whatever. Anyways. But damn, Henry already taken over a big chunk of France. I didn't realize that a king of England actually took over this much of France. So wow, impressive. Never knew this.
According to which Henry married French Princess Catherine. Their descendants would inherit the French throne after the death of Charles VI the Mad. Both sovereigns passed away in 1422. Henry V's son, Henry VI, who was less than 1 year old, was crowned as the King of England. The king's uncle, John of Bedford, became the regent and took command in France, while his other uncle, Humphrey of Gloucester, looked after English affairs. Although Bedford was a decent commander, the French soon rallied around Joan of Arc, and Charles VII was crowned as King of France in Rheims. Henry's
Joan of Arc. I definitely have heard of that name. So I can definitely see her becoming a big player in this conflict. So I guess the War of Roses, so far from what I can tell, is France versus England. Those are the two main countries involved. So okay, I don't know what the roses coming involved yet, but apparently it's just England and France from what I've seen. And Joan of Arc is a big name, and I know Henry is a big name. I just don't know which one. So anyway, we'll continue.
And Charles VII was crowned as King of France in Rheims. Henry's coronation in Paris was a mere symbol. By the time Henry reached adulthood and started governing in 1437, Bedford was dead and the situation in France was untenable. The king was weak and easily swayed by his nobles, and at that point the peace party led by Edmund of Somerset and William of Suffolk had more influence on the king than the war party of Gloucester and Richard of York. The sides agreed to peace at Tours in 1444. According to their agreement, Henry was to marry Charles' niece Margaret of Anjou and return Maine and Anjou to France. The marriage and the peace conditions were unpopular in England. Among those who protested was Gloucester, and that gave Henry a chance to imprison his uncle in 1447. Gloucester died shortly after, and this weakened the war party even more. Richard, who commanded the English lands in France, was stripped of his office and sent to govern Ireland, which was an exile. Somerset and Suffolk became dukes in this period.
So basically, Ireland is not like a country like that's kind of built up right now. He's sent to exile in Ireland, so I guess there's not much to Ireland right now, as far as, I guess, community and stuff like that. It hasn't really been conquered yet, so I guess that's why. At least not in this time period, right? Because it doesn't look like it doesn't say any kind of country over here. I guess it's kind of just open free land. I don't know. Maybe someone in the comments could let me know because they've only conquered some of it, and I don't see any other kind of country's name next to it. But like I said, in the Viking episode, it was the same. When I seen the Vikings, which was like 400 years earlier, uh, it was the same way. Like no one has conquered Ireland except for some Vikings went there. But anyways, that's a different topic, different story. We're staying here with the War of the Roses and what's going on between England and France right now, and there seems to be like a lot of drama within England right now. Anyway, it looks like they're on the verge of kind of losing what they have in France.
Somerset and Suffolk became dukes in this period. However, Suffolk was exiled under popular pressure and then murdered. Hostilities with France were renewed, and Somerset, who was appointed the commander in Normandy, lost all the northern holdings save for Calais by 1450 and returned to England. He and Queen Margaret had the king under their influence. The prestige of the monarchy was at an all-time low. The 100 Years' War impoverished England, the losses in France were hard to swallow, and the nobles who had lost their land on the continent were unhappy. At the same time, all the duchies created in the last century had become too strong and independent, and the Duke...
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm pausing a lot here, but yeah, so I guess the 100 Years' War is, I guess, the start of war between England and France, because obviously they just mentioned it that, so yeah, definitely interesting stuff. I'm definitely interested to know about the 100 Years' War now. But yeah, where's Joan of Arc? I guess she part of the 100 Years' War, and just I don't know. I'm just gonna go by what they tell me here and not try and think too much about names I've known and stuff like that. So I'm sorry.
Created in the last century had become too strong and independent, and the dukes often had personal retinues larger than that of the king. At this point, it is essential to show you the family tree of the Plantagenet dynasty, as many grandsons of Edward III controlled these duchies, ushering in the era of what is controversially known as bastard feudalism. This era was characterized by the loyalty of the soldiers being to their lords rather than the king. The nobles would use that to procure offices, lands, and finances from the king. These lords and their heirs would play a central role throughout the Wars of the Roses. Richard, who had...
So basically, the king doesn't have a whole lot of power right now because all these lords, they have their own kind of power, and the people in their area, I guess, look up to them more than they do the king. And so the king kind of has to suck up to these lords if he wants to really, have a lot of power, because, if he doesn't really do what these lords want, then the lords can kind of turn on the king and the people along with them, and then that's not very good for the king. So not a good time to be the king, I guess.
Wars of the Roses.
Wars of the Roses.
Richard, who had a strong claim to the throne as a great-grandson of Edward III, used the circumstances to return from exile in 1452. Although many came to his banner and demanded Somerset's arrest, the Queen's party was still stronger, and Margaret's pregnancy made her position even more secure. The situation would change in 1453. Affected by the loss of Bordeaux and Aquitaine, the king suffered a mental breakdown and became unresponsive. Scholars still argue about the nature of this illness, but it is clear that Henry VI lost the remainder of his political power. In the north, two noble families, the Nevilles and Percys, used the lack of central power to renew a feud.
I'm sorry, so Henry VI, he's basically sick, and he doesn't have any political power right now, so basically his wife is kind of taking control of everything, pretty much, right? And so I guess with the king being down and out, the grandsons and all that are trying to take advantage of the situation. All right.
The Nevilles and Percys used the lack of central power to renew a feud, and as Somerset supported the latter, the Nevilles allied with Richard. By 1454, Richard had enough backing to become the royal protector and appoint his supporters to offices, while Somerset was arrested. However, in 1455, the king recovered, and Queen Margaret managed to influence him yet again. Richard's decisions were rolled back, and he was exiled. This time, the Duke of York wasn't going to take it, and he raised an army to move to London. The conflict that would later be called the Wars of the Roses because of the heraldic badges used by the Lancasters and the Yorks became inevitable.
Okay, I got it now.
Henry knew that he would receive no support in London and moved out to a town called St Albans with his 2,000 men, where an at least 5,000 strong Yorkist army was waiting for him. Richard wasn't ready to dethrone Henry, so negotiations started. But as the latter refused to surrender Somerset, the Yorkists attacked. Many Lancastrian commanders, among them Somerset, were killed, while the king was captured. Richard returned him to London and was appointed the Protector by Parliament. By that time, Margaret gave birth to Edward and became the leader of the Lancastrian party.
I'm actually surprised that Richard didn't kill Henry, but I guess that would have been like a big fallout. And then you still have the Queen that has a baby, and also, the Queen would have the power, right? So I guess that for political reasons and whatnot, it would have been like just a bad move all around for him. When it comes to the people, would probably look really extremely down on that. This is the guy who killed the king. But instead he used a position to kind of be the guardian, was called the guardian. Anyways, the one that until Henry reaches of age gets to kind of make the decisions and control things, right?
Margaret gave birth to Edward and became the leader of the Lancastrian party. It seemed that both sides were shocked by St Albans, as hostilities continued only in the form of the Percy Neville feud between 1456 and 1459. Henry attempted to reconcile the parties on a few occasions, but the suspicions were too strong, and in the fall of 1459 the sides clashed once again. This time the Lancastrians gained the upper hand, and the Yorkists were forced to find refuge in Calais and Ireland. The Yorkists recovered quickly and returned to England in the summer of 1460.
Okay.
The king's forces were defeated at Northampton, and Henry was captured.
Dang.
Richard attempted to claim the throne, but even his staunchest supporters refused. Instead, the so-called Act of Accord was adopted, according to which Henry VI would rule for life, but would be succeeded by Richard of York. The Queen was willing to fight for her son's inheritance and was gathering her forces in the north. Richard moved towards the Lancastrian troops to prevent their recruitment efforts, but his enemies were already on the way, and their 18,000 blockaded his 5,000 to 10,000 strong force near Sandal Castle.
This is really crazy right now. I mean, there's so much going on. I mean, Henry's like, okay, I get power for the rest of my life, but basically, his kid or his wife is the one who kind of doesn't get anything in return here. I mean, and they get nothing, and so obviously she's going to be mad and want to fight for her rights as one be the next. Well, she's queen, but fight for the rights of her son to kind of take over afterwards. And then of course you got York over here. He wants his power because he has a claim to the throne, and he got what he wanted, but now he has to deal with the queen because the queen's gonna try and do everything she can to stop him, so she can get back into that line. I know I just confused everyone else. I just kind of confused myself. I actually already know what's going on. I actually do know what's going on here. So I'm sorry if I confuse you guys, but you guys probably already know what's going on here. But anyways, play.
What happened next is still debated, but the Yorkists sallied out from the castle and were crushed near the town of Wakefield. Richard of York was killed.
Wow.
In early 1461, his son Edward became the leader of the Yorkists. In February, he defeated a Lancastrian army at Mortimer's Cross. Meanwhile, a smaller Yorkist force under Warwick was defeated at St Albans by the army commanded by the Queen. Henry VI was recaptured by the Lancastrians. Edward learned about this defeat and moved south, where he united with the remainder of Warwick's troops. As Lancastrian soldiers committed...
How old is Henry right now? I mean, he keeps getting captured. Man, how old is he right now? I'm just curious.
...with the remainder of Warwick's troops. As Lancastrian soldiers committed atrocities in the area, Margaret and Henry lost all their support and decided to move to the north. That allowed Edward to enter London in March and take the throne as Edward IV. The showdown was imminent. Both sides continued to recruit troops over the next few weeks. Edward left London on the 13th and arrived in Nottingham on the 22nd. Here he received the news that 30 to 35,000 Lancastrian troops commanded by Somerset were to the south of the city of York. Edward had less than 30,000. On the 28th of March, King Edward sent Fitzwalter to secure the bridge over the Aire River near Ferrybridge. However, Fitzwalter was ambushed by Clifford's cavalry. Many Yorkists were massacred or drowned.
Damn.
King Henry had sent a messenger to negotiate, but his offer was refused. Edward knew that the main Lancastrian force led by Somerset was waiting 2 miles away, ready to crush the Yorkists if they pushed Clifford away and crossed the river. He sent a vanguard under Suffolk.
Right now, I guess I'm going for Henry because, like, he's actually the king right now. And so, like, I kind of go for Henry and the Queen right now. I don't even know if I should be, but for some reason, I'm kind of going, I guess, because he's a kid. I don't know. Who are you guys going for?
Pushed Clifford away and crossed the river. He sent a vanguard under Suffolk, which managed to push the Lancastrians back to the end of the bridge. Edward then marched with the main force to Ferrybridge and led his men personally to Suffolk's aid. To stop the Yorkist advance, the Lancastrians destroyed the bridge, but the former constructed a narrow raft to ferry across. This raft was captured by the Lancastrians, and the fight continued in the area for some time until the Yorkists managed to cross the river to the north at Castleford and set up camp. At dawn on the 29th of March, both armies found themselves in a snowstorm. At 11 in the morning, the Yorkists marched northward and encamped on the hill 10 miles south of York, with their backs to the village of Saxton. Edward put his men in formation. Their lines stretched for a mile along the ridge. At the same time, the Lancastrians moved north and took positions to the north of the Yorkists on high ground 100 feet above them on the meadowland to the south of Towton. Part of their cavalry was hidden in the forest to the west of the Yorkist positions. The Lancastrians had the advantage of the high ground. The Yorkist position was shaky, as any retreat would trap them along the river. Edward had artillery, but the weather conditions did not allow its usage. Somerset didn't want to descend from the high ground and waited for the Yorkists to approach. The battle started with archers exchanging volleys. However, the wind was blowing into the face of the Lancastrian archers, and they were unable to see the enemy properly.
Wow.
Their arrows fell short of the mark, and according to the sources, all they could hear through the whirlwind was the laughter of their counterparts. A hail of counter-volleys accompanied this. The Yorkists were gathering thousands of enemy arrows and were firing them back at them, retreating after each volley to avoid the return fire. The Lancastrians suffered heavy losses and were forced to descend from the hill, taking up melee weapons and charging.
Wow.
The Yorkist archers sent a few more volleys and then retreated behind their men-at-arms. As the main Lancaster force charged into the Yorkist army, a fierce melee began across the line. At the same time,
Yeah.
the hidden flanking force attacked the left flank of Edward's army, did significant damage, and almost routed it. Edward himself led the reserves and stabilised the situation on the left side. Still, the Lancastrians outnumbered their enemies and slowly pushed them back. It was then that the forces sent by Norfolk to assist Edward arrived. It is not clear if Edward gave an order or if the commander of this unit took the initiative, but these troops attacked the Lancastrians in the flank. Soon Henry's forces were routed. Sources claim that 20,000 Lancastrians and up to 10,000 Yorkists were killed, making Towton the bloodiest battle fought on English soil.
Man, it's crazy. Like, these guys just come out of nowhere and like flank them. Like, talk about like perfect timing. God, like I thought that was going to be what happened with the guys in the forest. Okay, they're definitely saying that the guys are in the forest. These guys are going to come up when it counts, and then they're going to kill the Yorker guys. Wow.
Henry, alongside his wife and son, escaped to Scotland. Edward IV's position was strong for now, but the Wars of the Roses were just starting. We are planning more videos about the Wars of the Roses down the line, so make sure you are subscribed to our channel and have pressed the...
Okay, cool deal. So yeah, I think it's like a 4-part series. So they're going to Scotland. I guess Scotland, they're kind of like got their own thing going on. You know, I guess they're friends with England, but you know, I guess they would take Henry in willingly, right? But like I said, this is only the first part. So obviously, so basically, the War of the Roses now, since that big like introduction to it all, is basically Henry, you know, versus Richard here, right? So, definitely curious to see where this goes. So where are we on to next? Battle of Barnet. So wow, wow. That definitely had a lot of introduction there, and I kind of regret not doing the 100 Years' War first, but ever since I pushed play on this, I'm devoted. I'm devoted to it. I'm not turning back now. And yes, so I'm all caught up now. I would have been a lot, well, probably would have known a lot more what was going on if I'd started with the previous series, the 100 Years' War. But pretty much know what's going on now, so I'm cool. I'm set, and I'm ready for the next episode. Hit the like and subscribe, guys, below. Let me know in the comments anything I probably have missed here or things you think I might need to know. Let me know who you're going for, and yeah, just don't give up the who wins and whatnot, I guess. But anyways, guys, please hit that like and subscribe. Catch you guys in future videos. Always a lot of fun. Yeah, see you guys later. Peace. Have a good night.